Howdy. Welcome to the Living History Corner at the fair in the Gems and Minerals building. And we are an artillery unit, the Richmond Howitzers Battalion. We're the largest Confederate artillery unit in this side of Mississippi, possibly the entire nation. We have 8 full-size artillery pieces in our unit. 2 of them are original guns, like this one right here. This is an original 3-inch ordnance rifle, which was the barrel itself was made in 1862. It was a Union gun at the time, but so many of them had changed hands during that period of time of the Civil War. And it became the rave and the most popular gun on both sides with the Confederacy and as well as it was in the Union. We are Civil War reenactors, very active ones, probably one of the most active around. We participate in Civil War reenactments throughout the entire Southern California basin and also one up in Fresno area. But this corner here, we have my entire shell display for Civil War artifacts that we have, and the artillery piece, and behind the cannon there is a limber. That's the device that actually pulled the cannons. On the front of the limber would be a long pole, and that's what the horses hook up to, pulls the limber, and then along with the cannon along with it. We're also Civil War historians too, so when we discuss about the Civil War and about the Southern perspective, we're able to back all our information up from actual books from a lot of them from that time period, from the 1860s, 70s, and 80s that were published from both sides, and a lot of it published from the North, and other researchers that had published that books and with lifetime and research and so forth, that we managed to get a lot of information from the National Archives, stuff that's not taught today in schools, and would be kind of embarrassing to the Yankees, so to speak. But yep, we also go out and do talks for various organizations on the Civil War, and we're also sought out quite a bit for movie details. I've done about 30 movies myself, TV shows, and the Howitzers themselves have done a lot more than that, because we come fully equipped with our own uniforms, equipment. We already know what to do, so it's a lot easier for the movie details to actually count on us to portray what we're supposed to do for the Civil War. A lot of the displays here, I have various photographs and videos that show Civil War reenacting in its finest. The video that I'm actually showing is the 135th anniversary of Gettysburg, and at that one that was filmed about 13 years ago, right on site at the battlefield of Gettysburg, when they did the reenactment, they stopped counting the reenactors at 27,000. So we have 2 more years we have coming up, will be the 150th anniversary, and they're expecting a larger turnout of reenactments, weather permitting. So we have quite a few reenactments here throughout California. Our weather is more tolerable and more predictable in comparison to back east. So some weekends that they do their reenactment, they can get rained out, or have a really hot and humid weekend, versus ours is a little bit more drier and more acceptable to the public. But all the reenactments we do is for the general public. History is written by the victor and so forth. One of them I always liked is that the first victim of war is truth. And but things have changed. You know, just like Abraham Lincoln, there's so much that is not told about Abraham Lincoln that would raise an eyebrow. Many books are coming out now about Abraham Lincoln as he truly was, and what the South was actually fighting for versus what the North was fighting for, and the slavery issue, and how that was completely changed, because the North was fighting to keep their own the fight for keep the Union together, not for the slavery issue. Even when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed by Abraham Lincoln, it was within 2 weeks period, there was over 200,000 Northern soldiers defected that had fled because they weren't fighting to free the slaves. And there's so much that's not taught today. And the shame of it is, the more they learn about the Civil War, the less is taught in school. And it's a sad case. It's a sad case. So, and the only ones that really teach the Civil War in depth are those who specialize in it. They have a good interest in it, and when they do teach, they actually teach the truth. And it's really surprising because when I go to schools and give talks and so forth, and I start talking about this, and then have the teacher go, "I remember that. Yes, that's true, children. Now see what the difference is." Well, talking to the children, it depends on what grade they're in too. When you talk to younger school kids, you can only talk about the stuff, the artifacts that you have, let them touch it and stuff. But when you get into high school, college, now they had the cognitive ability to be able to understand what the politics, the true natures of the war and why it started and so forth, and to bring out this information that has been kept off to the side and censored for so many years, and show it to them. And when they say that it's a biased type of opinion, when you show it to them, it's published by the North in their books, and also books about Abraham Lincoln, about his true nature and how he was, being authored by African Americans and so forth. It's an eye-opener. It's a total eye-opener. Or how many African American that fought for the Confederacy, up to 93,000 entire units of free blacks that formed their own units and fought for the Confederacy. So there's so much that's not taught at all, because it's pretty much censored. And then even when it comes to the textbooks, you have to remember that those companies receive grants from the federal government. So if they don't see meet the criteria of the federal government, they don't get money. Our particular unit started about 21 years ago as a reenactment unit, but the original Richmond howitzers have a long and prestigious history. They started in 1859 in the city of Richmond, Virginia. It was a militia unit, artillery militia unit, and they started with boat howitzers and on metal type frames, but it was not a volunteer unit. It was, in order to get into the Richmond howitzers, you had to be invited in. So they're all successful businessmen, attorneys, and so forth. And we maintained we have the history of the Richmond howitzers throughout the entire war. So when the war broke out in 1861, 1st Company Richmond Howitzers offered their services to the Army of Northern Virginia, at which time they were accepted. And then they later on they formed the 2nd Company Richmond Howitzers, and eventually the 3rd. And they were actually assigned to different types of divisions, other Confederate divisions, and traveled with them, and they only see each other in passing, never fought together themselves. But they had a long, prestigious background, and they were all the way up to the final surrender at Appomattox Courthouse. So and they fought bravely. And they never surrendered either. Where a lot of the other units had to surrender the flags, Richmond howitzers didn't. They didn't surrender a flag. They managed to tear up their flag, and each member in the Richmond howitzers got a piece of their flag they'd take with them. So they're one of the few units that did not surrender. But it had a long, prestigious history.